Hey everybody, Justin Cena here, and we're talking about layers now inside of the targeting section of Social Ad Classroom. This is definitely a super important video, so pay extra attention here and take notes and rewatch it if you have to. So layers in terms of your targeting, right? Targeting is all about who is going to see your ad, of course, and we talked about why it's super important to kind of have that very narrowed down, laser focused audience. Talking about increasing your conversion, lowering your ad costs, increasing click through rate, etc., etc. That's all going to happen when you have a very defined and targeted audience. So with any ad platform, we're talking specifically of Facebook in this section, but with any ad platform, the basis of your ad is going to be the targeting. Who sees the ad? Of course, you have the messaging, you have the ad copy, you have the ad graphics. Going to the linking to the product that you're promoting or the service that you're promoting. But who is going to actually see that ad? That's the power of these social networks. So before we talk about the specific layers, let's talk a little bit about why the social networks are so perfect for what we're trying to do here. From day one on Facebook, you're liking pages, you're filling out your profile, you're self-declaring your job or your industry or your college major or anything like that. Think about all these tons and tons of data points here that these social networks are now aggregating. As marketers, we're lucky enough to now be able to tap into all of that and have just an infinite amount of data about over 1 billion people. That's super powerful. If we want to find nurses from New Jersey that like dogs, and we could easily do that. If we want to find people who went to University of Southern California and like surfing, we can do that. There are tons and tons of layers that we can go after, and again, this is really going to be the entire basis of the success of your ad. The better you get with targeting, and it's definitely a skill that that you can learn and you're going to practice, and we're going to teach you really the best ways to do it right here. But the more targeted your ad is, the more money you're going to make. That's the bottom line. So let's just talk about some of the top level categories in terms of layers that you can target with on Facebook. So we got age, we got gender, we got demographics, we got interests, and we have data layers. 5 different sets. We're going to go into each one individually. These can all be used either alone individually, or they can be combined and actually start layering on top of one another. And we'll talk about exactly how to do that. Another video in this section on intersecting. That's going to be, again, one of the most important videos of this course. So keep that in mind. Let's jump right into the first kind of layer, and that is the age and gender layer. And I'm kind of putting these together in one. They're very straightforward. We'll show you in a live over the shoulder kind of how you can set these. But just conceptually, on the age and gender type thing, this is as simple as it sounds. What gender do you want to show the ad? What age group do you want to show the ad? You have full control over that. So maybe you want to show it only to someone who's 25 years old and is male. I'm not exactly sure why you would want to do that, but you can for sure do that. Important to talk about assumptions at this point, right? Let's say you're selling a product to nurses. Let's keep using that as an example. I want you to throw any assumption out the window unless it's backed up by some real data. And by that I mean, let's say your assumption is that nurses are mostly female and they're young, so you think that you want to set your age to 21 to 30 and set the gender to female. Now, that assumption sounds fair, but I can't tell you how many times these social ad networks have completely busted any assumption that I've had. It's not worth going into any ad with any sort of assumption that isn't supported by actual hard ad data. I don't want industry data telling me that 50% of the people are between 20 and 30. I frankly don't care. I want to see who reacts to the ad. I'm going to let the ad data, once the ad starts running, I'm going to let that kind of build my assumptions. I'm not going to let anything pre-existing build any assumptions for the targeting that I'm going to create. I think mindset-wise, that's incredibly important. Throw all assumptions out the window and let the data speak for itself. How do you know that maybe the 35 to 45-year-old nurses, they might have really wanted your product, but right off the bat you threw them out the window because of your assumption that 21 to 30 was the right age. So pulling out, and we'll go over reporting later on in the social ad classroom course, but let the data speak for itself. And so with that, I'm saying, for almost any case, you're going to start really by going for ages 20 all the way up. And I like skipping 18 and 19 mostly because I just want to guarantee that these people have their own credit card. So I start with 20. Now, there are definitely some exceptions to the case. Let's say you're targeting grandparents, right? You could pretty much start at, 45, 50. You're not going to be missing out on many people who are buying grandparent-related products between the ages of 25 and 45. And maybe let's say you have a product, let's say you have a T-shirt that is, it's about women, or it's about women nurses, for example. Then in that case, obviously, you can start off with having women as the gender. But unless it's a very specific case like that, again, throw all assumptions out the window and just go for all the entire age range from 20 up, and then just check the reporting, check the data, and see who is engaging with your ad and who's buying. And then you can use those hard data points to kind of test assumptions later on in some future ads. So that's age and gender, again, very, very straightforward. Next is demographics. And these would include things like job titles, family, college field of study, college where you attended. These are definitely not things like, I love dogs. That's not a demographic. So where do you find these? Inside Facebook, and again, we're gonna show you exactly where these are in the over the shoulder in a couple minutes. But these are found in the interest box inside of your ads manager. When you're setting the targeting, there's going to be a section for age. There's going to be a section for gender. And then there's a section for interest/demographics in what I call the interest box. So here are some very specific examples of demographics. And these will go on a niche by niche basis. In some niches, you won't have any need for demographics. I'll show you some examples of where you will and where you won't. So think about nurses again, going back to that example. Talking about what people self-declare. Maybe you're a nurse, maybe you're a marketer, whatever. In your profile, you have the opportunity to put your job title, and guess what? Facebook ads, they're gathering all that data and they're supplying that to marketers inside of the demographics. So if I want to target nurses, there's tons of different ways to do that in terms of interest, but there's also a very, very, very straightforward way to target them, and that's by the job title demographic. So same idea for teachers, or really any job, maybe engineering, or coaches, or athletes, or whatever you want to target. If it's a job title, or if it's if there's a job title that makes a lot of sense, then you can go right inside the demographics and go and actually search out that job title. Now I'll show you exactly what I'm about to talk about in the over the shoulder. But there are often times where you go in there and let's say teachers or even nurses. Either example, you go in there and you put teachers in the demographic. That's not going to be all inclusive. You need to really think a little bit wider. So think about the types of teachers that there are, and I know for a fact that inside of the ads manager, you have the opportunity to target teachers, and some, again, this is about how they self-declare. So some self-declare as first grade teachers, second grade teachers, third grade teachers, science teachers, math teachers, special education teachers, college professors, secondary school instructors. All these different job titles that they're not just going to come up when you put in the word teacher. So again, think wide. With nurses, the example would be you have nurses, you have pediatric nurse, you have registered nurse, you have RN, which is also registered nurse, but just a different way that people will basically self-declare as that job title. So you want to be all-inclusive in your searching, and I'll show you a great example of that over the shoulder in a minute. You want to target moms, or you want to target parents. That's in the demographic section. You want to target people who went to University of Southern California. That's in there. You want to target people. Another way to target nurses, maybe not job title, but how about field of study? People who majored in nursing in college. Pretty good chance that they're interested in nursing products. So that's a demographic. And tons and tons of demographics in there. Think of things like jobs, college, education, home composition. Those are all in the demographics. What's not in the demographics is things like I love dogs, or things like PetSmart or Petco. Those are going to be in interests, and those for for the dog niche, if we're talking, and again, this is on a niche by niche basis, the dog niche really isn't going to rely on demographics as much. It's going to be it's going to rely more on the interest, which we'll talk about in a second. But again, think of it on a niche by niche basis, and really remember that just because the word nurses shows up in the demographic box, that's not an end all be all. You want to go after every single variation of nurses. Like I said, registered nurse, pediatric nurse, emergency room nurse, etc., etc. Okay, moving on to the next and now the most important layer, and these are interests. And these, like the demographics, these layer on top of age and gender. So for example, let's say you put in the age range of 20 to 40, and then you put in the interest of let's say, I love dogs. Then it's going to show only people at 20 to 40 that love dogs. So they basically will layer on top of each other. Demographics and interest do not layer on top of each other by default. What they will basically do is it's like an or statement. So let's say you have the demographic of nurse for the job title, and then you have the interest of dog lover. Basically, it's saying I'm going to show this ad to anyone who is in the nurse job title demographic or is in the dog lover interest. So remember that interest and demographics by default, they don't layer on top of each other. They'll basically they'll line up side by side. So when you have those or statements, you're basically creating larger audiences when you add multiple interests and demographics to your ad. So interest, with the simplest form when you think about interest, is what people like. And I stress the word like as I'm talking about literally what people like in terms of fan pages. That's going to be really the kind of the basis of why people are kind of categorized into the specific interest that you're able to target. So think about dog lovers. They're going to like dog-related pages. Maybe it's something like I love my dog, or I love pit bulls, or Pug Rescue Center, or PetSmart or Petco, or maybe a dog food brand. Those are all going to be targetable interests. Same thing with the cat lovers. Maybe it's something like I love my cat, or I love Maine Coons, or stuff like Little Bub and Angry Cat, or Grumpy Cat. I'm sorry, the cat celebrities. These are all interests that you'll be able to target. And again, with the same example, surfers. You're going to want to target surfing related pages, and the Kelly Slaters of the world, and all the celebrities that people who like surfing like. And the whole idea is that you just want to match up your product or your service with interests that resonate with your target market. If you're trying to sell a dog product, think about the person who's going to buy that product. Someone that likes dogs, someone that has a dog, someone that has an interest in dogs. Now think about the type of people that like the pages that are called I love dogs or I love pit bulls. I mean, people who these are just completely straightforward, simple ways to match up your product with targetable interests. And it's really as simple as it sounds. You want to match your product up with the most targeted audience that you can. And these social ad networks just make it so easy because, again, everyone is providing so much data about what they like that you can just simply match up product to these targets. So I'm going to show one more layer before we kind of jump into the over the shoulder, and that is the data layer. So this is third-party data that, and this is specific to the Facebook platform. In my opinion, it's not very reliable. What I would love to have in terms of data points is something that comes from your own ad data or your own traffic data, and that's stuff like retargeting or website custom audiences. I'd rather rely on that as a data layer, and we'll definitely talk about retargeting and how to best leverage that later on in the social ad classroom course. But it's worth noting that these data layers and some of these, some of the more popular ones are like online buyers or people who have bought cosmetics online. Very, very general. Not exactly sure where the third-party data comes from in terms of these companies. For the most part, I think that these can be kind of ignored. Like I said, they're not very reliable, and there are way better ways to do that. So, without further ado, let's jump right into an over the shoulder. This is going to be super, super valuable in terms of just showing you where the different layers are and just some examples of some good layering tactics in terms of different niche examples that we'll run through. All right, so let's go over the shoulder. Okay, so let's take a look at the different layers that we just talked about in this video. So just to let you know where we are, we are back in we're actually creating a Facebook ad. So remember in that first video, in basic research, we went to facebook.com/business, and then we went to actually create a mock ad. Now, in terms of the first section, in terms of where it asked where we're going to send it, we were just doing, again, this is just for the sake of getting to this section so we can show this part. You can put anything you want up here in terms of the link where we're going to do it. We're going to delete this ad. We're not going to we're not going to upload it or publish it, again, just for the sake of testing purposes. So we're on the second part of the ad creation screen, the ad set level. And this is where you have all of your targeting options. So remember the layers that we talked about. So age and gender, that's very straightforward. It's right up here. You have age, gender, see the different age ranges that we're going with. Goes all the way up to 65 plus. What I like to start with is pretty much 20 and over. And the reason is I want to guarantee that these people have a credit card. I want to make sure that they're able to actually purchase my product right now. I don't want them to click on my product just for the sake of, clicking on it because it's something that they might want for Christmas in 10 months, I want them to be able to buy right now. So I'm doing that. In terms of gender, I'm almost always leaving this to be all unless I have a product that only makes sense for, for men or for women. Otherwise, I want to leave all assumptions at the door and kind of just let the data speak for itself. One that I didn't cover, just before in the beginning part of this video is location. Obviously, we have tons and tons of location data all the way down to zip code. So you could go, as granular as, your actual town zip code or the portion of your town zip code if your town has multiple zips. So you can get very, very granular in here. And I remember Facebook has so much data that, there's going to be pretty much every location is represented. Of course, that will shrink your size if you're limiting your location. So for the most part, I'm just kind of starting off with what you see here. United States, I'm not going to touch it. I will change the age group to be 20 or higher. And like I said, for gender, I'm going to leave all assumptions at the door. Just leave it for all gender unless it's a product that only works for one or the other. So those are, your kind of basic ones. The age and gender, they're super straightforward. And remember about the assumptions, throw all of those assumptions out the window unless they're backed by data. So now here is the main part here, and this is what I call the interest box. So it's under the detailed targeting section. And, you're going to see right here, include people who match at least one of the following. This is where we're going to put in those interests. So remember, we were doing that basic research before just to prove that our niche is targetable on Facebook. Remember, we looked at all those nursing interests, and then we looked at all those pit bull interests. So in those examples, we proved that they were targetable. What we were doing there was actually looking at interests and demographics. Remember, we actually saw some job titles and some field of studies pop up. So let's cover demographics first. First off, these layer on top of the age group and everything. So let's say I'm going to go in here and select the demographic of parents. And then I'm going to go, I want to target moms. And they have all these different categories of moms. And oftentimes when I'm targeting moms, I'm just going to check off all these boxes. So I want to hit all these moms. But basically, the point is, you can see here that these the age layer and the gender layer, let's say we switch it to women up here, these carry over with the ad in terms of they get layered on top of each other. So you see these different bullet points. These are all kind of factors or variables that make up your audience. So it's not only is it big city moms, corporate moms, fit moms, anyone who's in this audience, but it's also only women that are in the audience, and also only women that are 20 to 65, and also only women who are in this audience 20 to 65 that live in the United States. So you take a look right here. Here's the potential audience size. Let's change one of these factors. Let's change the age to 40. So we're at 18 million. We're going to go all the way up to 40. 18 million now changes to 11 million. And let's say we change this only to New Jersey. That 11 million went down to 580,000. So now this ad says, I'm going to target people who are located in New Jersey, who are between the ages of 40 and 65 plus, who are female, and who belong to this mom's demographic. So you see how these layer on top of each other, It's not anyone who's 40 to 65 or female or in there. It's and. So that's important. They layer on top of each other with an and intersection as opposed to an or intersection. And we'll talk about intersecting and why that's super important later on. This is kind of the most basic form of intersecting or layering. So I'm going to just remove this out, go back to just the United States in general and kind of go back to my original stuff here. So let's take a look at some other demographics. So some of the big ones, education is always a good one. Maybe you want to target people specifically who went to a specific school. Maybe you want to target people who went to Rutgers University or Michigan University, whatever. You could target all those universities. Whoops. I'm gonna have to go back in here now and recreate this ad. I just exited it out a little bit too quickly. Okay, remember we're just getting back here because we want to just talk about this section. So I'm gonna go back to 20 and over, and let's look at more demographics. Here's a really good one inside of education: field of study. So you want to target people who study to become an engineer. Well, look at all these different engineering majors that people have self-declared. So you can start clicking all of these ones and building your audience. Now let's look at what this audience is about. So 1.8 million people. The people in this audience are 20 to 65 of age. They are men and women, and they have studied one of these fields of engineering in college. So if you're trying to advertise an engineering t-shirt, this is a great audience to hit, because these people, if they have claimed that they've studied this in college, then you have a pretty good level of confidence that they are going to be at least potentially interested in your product. Let's take a look at some other demographics. So we have the parents one is what I use a lot. So you could do all parents, and in here, you have different types of parents in terms of the makeup of the age. You could do a quick way to get all moms would be to click on all parents and then just change it to women. So that's going to give you a selection of 35 million moms in in the Facebook environment. Lots and lots of demographics in there. Another huge one is work, and not only job titles but industries. So job titles is a very straightforward one. Again, you want to go back to that nurse example. Look at all these nurses that we can select. So we have nurse practitioner, nurse manager. And remember, there's different iterations of these terms. So it's not just nurse practitioner, there's also registered nurse. And there's also RN for registered nurse. And you might not know those off the top of your head, but as you're kind of doing these different things of research, as you're living inside the niche for a little bit, Googling around, you're going to start to see the different terminology. And that's what I said when I say, if you could speak fluently in the niche, that's going to go a long way towards your interest research. So, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that there's, also registered nursing. And now when I type in registered nurse, I see that there's also RN. So for the sake of trying it, I'm going to see what's in there for RN. And, whoops, got to go back into the demographics search, job titles, RN. And now there's also all these other RN iterations. So I don't want to miss out on any of these terms. I'm going to put them all in here to build my kind of base audience. So that's where you're going to focus on the demographics, job titles, home life, parents, education, even industries. This is a more general one, but this would be a good one if you're targeting nurses, right? And this would be, this would be the good one for targeting nurses. It's called out individually. Maybe you're doing something with veterans. Well, they have a demographic just for U.S. veterans. I know a lot of people have success doing veteran type T-shirts. So you got a lot of stuff on the demographic side. Very powerful. It's the second most powerful part of Facebook. The first is definitely interests. So we did talk briefly about data layers, and they're kind of in here under behaviors and all these things. And I told you that they're not so reliable, so we're going to kind of ignore those now. You might want to spend your own time to, and your own money to invest in some testing in there. But from what I've heard and what I've seen myself, really not too reliable. So it's all about interest here. And really, don't worry about browsing through interests like you would browse through demographics. There's simply too many. So this is what you saw when we were doing the basic research. So let's go back to the Pitbull example. And all of these are interests. Pitbulls and parolees, pitbull lovers, save pitbulls. These are all interests. They're probably tied to some sort of fan page or general community on Facebook. Tons and tons and tons of them out here. These are just coming up on the first kind of go around. We'll show in another video exactly how to get Facebook to spit out the best recommendations for us. But these are the interests. The interests are certainly what is going to kind of drive the bulk of your interest targeting. These are going to layer on top of age and gender they don't layer on top of demographics by default. We'll show you how to do that in the intersecting video and how to really create some super powerful audiences. But if you were to add a demographic, let's say you were going to add the all parents demographic, and then you were going to add the interest of pit bulls and parolees, right? This ad is showing it to people who are in either audience, not both, but either. So they might be in both, they might overlap, but basically this ad is showing it to anyone who is in this all parents demographic or anyone that is in this pit bull and parolees demographic. So these do not layer on top of each other by default like the age and the gender and the location do. So the interest targeting, that's the really the easiest way to start your first ad. You know, you're going to match up your product with interests that resonate with your target market. It's as simple as that. You're selling a pit bull t-shirt. You're going to want to put all these different pit bull interests, and we'll talk about how to build, you know, the ideal audience. But we're going to want to have pit bull related interests, so we're going to advertise a pit bull product. I mean, it's as simple as that. So these are the different layers inside of Facebook ads. They're all super powerful, and we're going to show in future videos exactly how to use those as best as possible.